So today we have a packed meeting agenda. There's a lot of content to go through, so I do want to keep us rolling here. We're going to dive into our slides. So ahead of us today for our agenda, we're going to do our typical welcome and introduction. We'll then pass it off to Brett for the phase 2 update, and we'll also share a little bit on our board referral. And then I'll share a little update on our CWG update, specifically for Downtown-Diridon. And then Greg will pass us off, or he'll kick us off with our Diridon BART station design update and go through a bunch of configurations and options there. And then Adriana will share an update on our downtown station as well. And then I'll close us off with our member report out as well as our next steps. So that's we have ahead of us. And for those of you who are in person, I hope you all grabbed a packet. Those are not the full slide deck, but that is a little bit of a in-depth view of our different options. There's a lot to absorb there. So,
okay. Can everyone online hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, great. And apologies to those in the room for the echo here.
How about the rest of the group? If we enunciate a little bit more clearly, can you hear us online?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just need to kind of talk a little louder when we present to you this afternoon. Or just go closer to the mic. Yeah, I think Brett, you'll be okay. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I push this in actually. Hopefully this helps the audio a little bit.
Get cozy.
Yeah. Does this help folks online?
Yeah, it does. I don't know if Kristen, if the mic's in front of you, but
No, it's supposed to be coming from the owl. And so everyone around the circumference.
oh yeah, you sound a lot better with.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the problem solving and the patience here. All right, we'll keep moving just for the sake of time here, but before we do, I do want to do a roll call. So I'll go down the line here. I see Adina's online. If you want to introduce yourself, Adina. And if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Hi, yes, Adina Levin with Friends of Caltrain. I am in transit, so I will go off camera while I am moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Adina. And then Alan.
Alan Williams, the Campus Community Association, Magley Park.
Thank you, Alan. And then I saw Bert was online.
Yeah, Bert's here with the Delmas Park Neighborhood Association.
Bert. Don't see Carol. Charlie. Don't see his online.
Charlie's here. Hey, folks.
Yeah.
Charlie Foss, San Jose State.
Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
I see Chris Morphy.
Chris Morrissey with the San Jose Arena Authority.
And I don't see Chris Shea on this list for some reason.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's all right. No worries at all. No worries at all.
Thank you, Chris. I don't think I see Dana online. Edgar, not see. Is Elizabeth on? Oh, she's just about to join. We'll come back to her. James, I don't see Jeffrey. I do see Jim online. And Jim, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Jim Goddard, Shark Sports and Entertainment.
And I see Kristen online.
Hi, everyone. Kristen Brown, Vice President, Local and Regional Government Relations for the Silicon Valley Leadership Group.
Kristen. I don't see Larry. I did see Mike. Can I introduce Mike?
I'm Michael McLean with Adobe.
Mike and Nate.
Hi, everybody. Nate LeBlanc, San Jose Downtown Association.
Nate. Don't see Ron, but Tony.
Hi, Tony Miranda at the San Jose Chamber of Commerce.
And I think we skipped over Elizabeth before, but she can hear us now, Elizabeth. It looks like your audio is activated there. All right. Well, thank you for joining. And do you want to introduce yourself, David?
David Heindel, we own the hot business across the street from the new location.
Thanks for coming in person today. All right. Just wanted to go over our upcoming meetings that we have. We're actually going to have a series of August CWG meetings, and we'll share more of that to come. But there's going to be a few series of board of directors meetings as well as oversight committee meetings in that August and September timeframe as well. And just for your awareness as well, there will be a Diridon JPAB meeting in mid-August. So have these on our radar, and just also for awareness, there will be some fall public outreach associated with the work that's happening there.
What's a JPAB?
Joint Policy Advisory Board.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to pause because I realized I didn't introduce the staff around the room here. So if you could quickly go around the room and introduce yourself, staff, that would be great.
Hello, everyone. Brent First, the Planning Engagement Manager of Parks and Development.
Greg Tebow, I'm the Facilities Engineering and Facilities Engineering Manager.
Gary Kenny, with the facilities with folks on the underground stations.
And Adriana Rothschild of the External Affairs team and stakeholder rep for the downtown station.
Monica Tanner, External Affairs team. I'll be helping with the people who are virtually. You put in the chat. I'll make sure the comments are for everyone else here.
John Johnson, very soon. I'll be taking notes today.
And Kristen May, our CWG coordinator. Like Monica mentioned, since we're having the hybrid meeting, she'll be focusing more so on the online participants. So online folks, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to enter that in the chat or raise your hand. She'll be keeping attention to that, and I'll be really focusing on the in-person folks, but we're gonna try to bounce back and forth so that it makes it fair in terms of any comments or questions. So appreciate your patience and bearing with us as we navigate this new space. So with that, I do want to pass it over back to Brent for our phase 2 update.
Thank you all for being here today. It's great. We have great attendance today. We have a lot of content, a lot of technical content to deliver to you later in the presentation. So I'm going to give a couple high-level overviews of kind of what's been going on in the project lately. We had our groundbreaking event in June. Thank you to the CWG members that were present there. This is a major milestone. So we broke ground on the project. There are graders out there, utilities going in. It's really exciting to see some of these early works occurring in Santa Clara. We've been waiting for this for a really long time. So it's a really successful event. We had over 200 people there, electeds, community members, staff celebrating the event. So it's really, really, really happy to see. We had a lot of labor leaders out there. A lot of our unions will be working on our project and also supporting the project. So, round of applause. There's some CWG members down there at the bottom across our groups. Got a nice shovel picture there. Hopefully we can deliver that back out to you so you have the photo. If not, we should get that out to the CWG members so you have that. All right, next up, maybe you've been seeing the project in the news. There's been a big push from a lot of our board members, including our chair, the mayor of San Jose, a lot of our advocates, a lot of you as CWG members really showing up in support of the project. we're really at a critical space right now, trying to, get that final funding closed. And we're working hard with FTA. We are oh so close, hopefully to hearing an announcement here in the next couple of weeks. But a lot of our leaders and supporters have been out there. You all have been advocating for the project. We really appreciate it. That is one of the roles for our community working group members, right? Is to learn and participate, and it's great to see you all out there. So we've had a couple of press conferences, and there will likely be more to come, and we expect to give you a little bit of updates. We also held a project tour. This was mainly for some of our key city staff, San Jose, but it was an important tour that we had in May because it really allowed some of the staff that we work with to see some of the behind the scenes of stations. And so we'll be talking about some of those things, some of our station infrastructure facilities that support our stations with you all today, and going through options with you. So staff was able to go out and see Milpitas Station in May, kind of open up the back door, see things like battery rooms and fire suppression systems and all the things that our engineers here need to design to have a healthy, working, safe station for all patrons. So we've taken you all on tours in the past to vent shafts and things like that. So this was kind of an experience for some of our staff, help them understand, to provide feedback for us who are designing the project. And I think it's going to be good. Thank you to BART. If there's any BART members on the call for hosting us and walking.
Brent.
Yep.
Any questions or comments from that phase 2 update, either in person or online?
Yeah, I guess, sorry, one other thing to add. We are expecting a call from FTA potentially this week or potentially next on kind of what we will call our New Starts engineering announcement. So this is kind of us entering into that FFGA process. This is a really critical milestone. We don't know when that will be happening, but we do plan on sending out an email to all of our key stakeholders when we receive that work. You are all on that list. Okay, so all of our community working group members will be receiving information in real time over the coming weeks. And we'll be having a series of Zoom calls as well, providing more details. Yeah.
Does this mean the funding is there, or is it, what is this?
That's what the announcement will be. Okay. So FTA will be telling us kind of what our expected awarded amount will be. There's still a lot of hoops to get through, right? We have to do more engineering work over the next 6 to 9 months. Okay. But this is a big thing. This is what we've been advocating for the last couple of months. We were expecting it to maybe happen last week, but it's just taking a little bit more time. Yeah, so sorry, questions on any of the, you want to start online or first?
Let's start online.
Okay.
No hands are raised right now, no questions in chat, feel free to add them in.
Okay.
Yeah, just given the nature of what's happened to President Biden, is there any issue potentially what might happen with federal funding, given what's happening right now, shift of power and part of this?
You know, we don't have that indication. We've been having almost daily calls with our lobbyists who are, in Congress and with our Senate members and with USDOT talking about those things. But really, we've just been in constant conversation with a lot of decision makers across the board. They are well aware of the project and making every effort. Yeah.
So probably we're all cheering for full funding, but there's a possibility that that doesn't come to pass at the reassessment period, or how does the reassessment work if we don't get the great news on full funding?
I think that's more what we'll discuss when we get the announcement.
Cross that bridge.
Yep. Exactly.
Are we gonna talk about any construction management CMTPs? Is that it? CMTPs? When the next ones are gonna be released, or is that part of this package, or?
We will share updates.
Yeah, we are going to be getting new CTMPs for the downtown area and On Rock area, and likely probably in August will be released.
Okay.
The focus right now is really on the stations, but we'll note that out.
Any comments or questions online? Oh, Dina, oh yeah. Dina.
Yeah, has there, can you hear me? Sorry, there's a bad background noise that will become less terrible in like a minute. Has there been any questions and raised in this funding process about like wanting to make sure that there is going to be enough operating funding to make sure that the BART system as a whole will continue to run, including the, from, Lapidus around the rest of the line, and also the full like ring of rail with the red colored trains on the west side of the bay. Has there been any questions being raised about making sure that we've got robust service for the regional rail core that is extremely complementary to the bit that VTA is taking responsibility for and paying for? Thanks.
There was a lot of detail there. I'm not sure if there are any questions like that have been asked, to be honest with you. But as part of our planning efforts, we do talk about operations for the system with FDA, of course. So maybe we could follow up with you more, Adina, offline. At the end of the meeting or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else online?
Okay, all right. With that, we'll move on to our VTA board referral. Pass it back to you, Fred.
All right, next up, Erica, who would normally deliver this update off tonight, so I'll be helping out, but we're going to be walking you through some design options later tonight. And our board asked us to engage with you all on this. So this is a really important meeting to get feedback from you all. We delivered to the board in July our plan for how we will be responding to them on the requests that they asked staff to come back to them. And one of those are exploring a series of options primarily for Diridon and 28th Street unfortunate stations. So today we're going to have some of those design options for you here. Greg will be really walking you through those and really engaging with you, getting some feedback from you. We have about 3 or 4 questions in the presentation that will be really important. That will go into the feedback that we put into the report when we report back to our oversight committee and to the board of directors. They will be hearing your feedback, and that will be included in the report back to them. So that kind of thing. So other ways that we have been, well, I kind of mentioned the oversight committee. This is a committee that meets monthly. It was canceled in July, but our draft plan, as I mentioned, was still provided to the board in email. So they saw the progress that we had made and the steps that we're taking to kind of get to the key milestones to report back out to them in August. I think the other really important thing for you all, CWG members, to note is we're going to have another series of meetings in August. So normally we wouldn't do meetings this close to each other, but we're really trying to get good and appropriate feedback from you all on these options. So we're doing that here in July, and then in August, we're going to refine down the options primarily for the stations and have more details for you at that August CWG, so that we can report back up to the board in September. That's keeping us on the schedule they asked. So any questions? Any questions on that? We talked to you a little bit about the referral last time we met. If anyone would like to see the plan, we can provide that to you. Basically a work plan for our steps.
And we can come back to it as well. I know that Greg is going to go into a deep dive, so there may be questions that also.
Okay.
We'll dive into our CWG update.
Anyone online? Are there any questions? Okay, perfect. Thanks all.
So wanted to share our CWG poll summary here. So in our May meeting that we had 2 months ago, we sent out a poll both in our meeting itself as well as after the meeting, just to gauge your input. Especially in response to the board referral, right? We wanted to get a sense of what you desired from our meetings going forward. And so just wanted to lay out over here a comparison between the three CWG groups. As you can tell, it's very different across the board, very different in preference. And so we're going to be catering our approach a little bit different depending on each of the groups, but specifically for Downtown-Diridon, just want to highlight that it's kind of split between desired or in-person meetings. Going forward, we will be having hybrid meetings. So there will be options for both in-person and virtual. So there's flexibility there. And then, yeah, addressing the second one as well, option between in-person and virtual. We will be providing that. And then 82% of you did like the staff facilitation. And so we'll be planning to keep that going forward. And then 55% of you said you were interested in that pre-meeting networking time, which we've implemented today. We do plan on doing that going forward, especially since we'll be having these hybrid meetings. And then 100% of you said that you would like to review the board or project documents prior to any of the board presentations. So we're going to take a closer look at what that looks like in our next slide here, but we are planning to address that as well. So just wanted to walk through our next steps. I mentioned some of them prior, but we will be offering hybrid options specifically for 28th Street. We're going to be looking into an external facilitator option. That's the only group that we're going to do so. And then we will be looking to provide you as members any project information that we have. It's an RVT board to solicit feedback like we're doing now for our options here, for our station options. And then we will continue on our quarterly cycles and we'll add any meetings where needed. Like this one, our July meetings aren't typically on our quarterly schedule, but we did add it for the sake of our board referral. So we'll continue to do so. And then we are planning after each of the quarterly CWG meetings to update the board with a verbal report. So Tom, our Chief Mega Projects Officer, will be providing an update to the board on the things that we've discussed as members here in our meeting. And then any materials that are shared will also be shared with our oversight committee as well. So just wanted to close the loop on all of the asks and requests there. So any questions on that? I know that was a lot of information to absorb.
Yeah, I'm one of the ones that wanted the external facilitator. No, nothing wrong with how it's working, but I think it's better in case things happen. Don't want to look at VTA for saying, okay, well, you're moderating this. It's biased towards that. That would be a better option to kind of make sure that everyone knows it's on an even playing field. But I like to look at that in the future again for downtown.
So thank you. We'll continue to get pulse checks, of course, at least yearly, just to see as things evolve. So I don't think it ends just here. So yeah. Thank you, Ellen. Any online comments, questions? All right. Okay, we'll move forward.
Just, Christina, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting us for today's first hybrid meeting.
Yes. Thank you, Tony and Chamber.
Sorry, it's a little echoey. We have that trouble with this room. That's on the to-do list, so.
All right, just to keep us moving, we have a lot of content.
Yeah, we do. So thanks, Kristen. My name is Greg Tebow. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the station is designed right now. Kind of some feedback we've gotten recently over the configuration of how it was looked at about 6 months ago, and then what we're looking at now. We've been working with the Diridon intermodal team for the future Diridon station for the last few months. We've been working with Caltrain to come up with some options, and the city of San Jose to come up with some options that we think are going to benefit the community, as well as allow for some future TOD in the area, kind of, and I'll show you some options for that. So let's keep going into the site here. This is the area of focus. Again, we've got the SAP Center across the street, the VTA property, which is right there in blue or teal, and then the Caltrain alignment. So again, our project is what we can control, which is the yellow or the orange station, the tunnel alignment, and the things in that kind of teal area. There's a lot of other things at play, including the Caltrain alignment and the future Diridon and Mobile Station over here. So we're trying to kind of accommodate a lot of those things. And then also the other development that was happening in this area, which is potentially on hold for a while now. We're still kind of envisioning that to still be part of our overall program. So we want to talk through some of the options that we're considering. So just so everyone's aware, this 5-mile alignment of tunnel has got a lot of infrastructure that needs to come up to the surface at this area. So it's not only getting people in and out of there, we've got a lot of facilities that we call station infrastructure facilities that live in this zone. And we have to find a home for them. So it's a lot of access staircases, it's a lot of battery storage systems for emergency power supply. It's a lot of various items of work that are called back of house or station infrastructure facilities. So in order to find a house for this, a place for this, we've got some options we're trying to configure that will make sense to everybody. So those are the things that I want to talk to today, and make sure that we all get your feedback as to where these things are going to be located.
Excuse me.
Yes.
My eyeballs aren't seeing. Where's the at-grade vent egress facility?
So we used to have one right here. And we've actually optimized that and brought that into this area here. So there used to be an at-grade facility, and I know there's a lot of consternation about that as part of our program. We've actually moved that over here. So a lot of the impacts that we were planning to have here for several years have been mitigated by integrating that east vent shaft or east egress shaft over here. We do also have a west vent shaft right now, which is in this corner. We're working with Caltrain and JPB on exactly where that's going to be facilitated. But right now that at-grade vent structure is in this corner over here.
Oh, that little rectangle there.
Yeah, there's a little rectangle right here, and underground, there's a very substantial underground facility over here that we've been working with the Diridon team on exactly where that's going to play at. I'm not going to talk about that western shaft today. It is something that we need to do as a program in terms of where that's located. I'm going to mainly focus on the station properly today.
I had a question.
Those of us on the phone had no idea where this and that were.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Neither do we on the TV. Or the news.
So I can
There.
stand over here, and then Kristen's going to actually move her mouse to where I'm pointing. So
thank you.
This is the area where the station is, where your pointer is, right? The area that I was talking about for the west vent shaft is over here near White Street. So that is an area that we're working through with Caltrain. And the other area I talked about was over there, where we used to have an at-grade surface configuration, which we've now integrated back into the overall station property. So those are just some of the things that have happened over the last year or so during our design development. So if we can go to the next slides.
I have a quick question about the map. I'm sorry. The space that's indicated now in the dotted lines, that square, is that going to prove to be adequate space throughout the project?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Will the size of that square change in any fashion throughout the course of design or construction?
The dashed line square or the
the dashed line square that surrounds it, that is part on SAP Center and then further south. The perimeter of the work area.
Will the work area change? The work area is cleared throughout the program for that green area that's hatched right there.
Chris, just to clarify, that area of focus is on the subsequent slides, we have clips So that was to help you people orient themselves on the subsequent slides.
Yeah.
We just have like screenshots of the station configurations, and that's the extent of the screenshots we're looking at.
Right, so
understood. Understood.
the purple line just shows where we're talking about.
Oh, okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me, I'd like to maybe hold off on comments for a few minutes, and we have some pauses where you guys can actually ask questions. So let me get through a couple slides and then we're gonna open it up for discussion. So the next slide shows, these are the things that we have to provide for, and I'm not gonna get into all the details, but there's thousands and thousands of wires and cables and conduits and ventilation systems that come up out of that tunnel and into that station. So we don't need to get on all of them, but every time you move these things around, you know, there's a cost effect, there's a maintenance effect, there's things that affect the overall design of that station that impact our movement. So we keep going. The next slide shows all the things that essentially need to be at grade. We have to actually provide staircases that come up to grade, right? You actually have to have ventilation systems that come out to the air. So these are the things that actually have to come up to the surface. We can't bury these things. We gotta have fire department access. We gotta have water valves and things like that have to be kind of in that station head house. So those are just some things, you know, we gotta have some restrooms up there. We gotta have our bike storage facilities in that area. So those are the things that we're planning for in terms of the overall footprint of the station proper. Let's go to the next one. Here's the three options that we'd like to talk about today. The one on the far right was the one that we had presented to the board several months ago, that had a cost savings measure to bring everything as much as we can above grade and reduce the cost of the program. What that did was reduce the amount of TOD space in that area. We understand that we need to find some different alternatives. So we've come up with a few other alternatives here. The one on the left is the underground condition, which we allow for the future TOD space. Here, Kristen, do you want to help me? Thank you. And then we also allow for a fairly large underground facility that's a basement, kind of a basement level for a lot of these facilities that I've been talking about. And then above that, we would also have some facilities as well. We do have two retail areas fronting Santa Clara Street. I'm calling them retail. They're activated zones. I don't know exactly what they would be. It could be a restaurant, it could be a retail space, it could be a whatever it is, it's program space. It's available for public use, right? And then we've got our station above. The one in the middle, we actually expanded even further. One of the comments we got was, how do we get more of that retail space surrounding the entire block? And so in order to do that, we would make our footprint a little bit bigger and maybe have a little bit more of these retail spaces in small loose squares. So if you can see, envision kind of what we're talking about, these would be additional small retail zones that would be kind of surrounding that Montgomery Street and Cahill Street. The one thing, and I'm going to get into a detail on all of these. So we'll go into detail on all.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. It would probably help if I had an elevation look.
Yeah, so I have the elevation
Okay.
next, so we'll do that.
Greg, I just wanted to clarify, these retail spaces would be accessible from outside of the fare gates.
That's correct.
Not from within the fare gates.
That's correct. So once the BART system is established throughout the entire BART system around the Bay Area, they do not have access to things like retail spaces inside the paid area. So it's all in the unpaid area. So once you bid your ticket to go on BART does not operate, you know, coffee stands. But before you get into the BART system, then there'll be areas that are for public use. And so those are the things that we can integrate into the station. So those are our three options. We're going to talk a little bit more today, and I have a lot more detail on this.
May I?
So we're gonna take a little poll here and then we can get into some questions. So, you know, the things that we use to evaluate these options are really like 6 categories or so. Number one is the stakeholder community feedback. So that's you, right? That's what's happening today. So we need your feedback. We want to know what's important to you. We want to know what makes sense to the community, right? Cost is a driver for us as well. The external facing impacts, so construction facing. A lot of times when we have a lot of underground work, that creates a lot more excavation. That means we're off hauling dirt, right? So those are the things that have an impact to the community as well. The user experience, that's the overall experience at the end of the day. What makes sense to the person actually riding the system? We're here to build a BART train, right? That's what we're here to do. What's that user experience? If there's a schedule impact, we also analyze that. And then if there's other technical items like right-of-way, utility impacts. So those are all the things that we looked at when we evaluated these 3 options. So I think we're going to take a poll right now, and we want you guys to rank kind of what in order from most preferred to least preferred. What are the things that are drivers for you? And while we're doing that poll, I can open it up to some questions.
Yes, so just want to jump in here. For those of you who haven't used Mentimeter, we'd love if you could on your whatever device you have, your phone, your laptop, your iPad, if you could go to menti.com and then it'll prompt you to enter a 8-digit code. And that is at the top, right here, 650573337. So we'll wait for folks to get oriented and let us know if you have any questions here.
Yeah.
But for this question in specific, like Greg mentioned, we'd love for you to rank each of these different criterias in the order of importance, in your order of importance.
Just next time, please keep QR code if not possible.
All right, sorry, that was
650573337.
And there's a question in the chat, schedule means planning and construction time.
Yeah, overall program schedule, so delivery schedule. So opening day schedule. And then also, you know, construction schedule, so the construction window, what's the most important?
And we're going to be using the same number survey throughout the presentation, so you can just keep the window open on your phone.
Yes.
And Kristen will refresh future questions.
Right.
Another hand, Rob Deardon has a question.
Yes, Rob.
I think you called on me to speak, so I'll give it a shot. First of all, I'm having a hell of a time hearing some of you speak in the Chamber of Commerce building. The mic doesn't pick you up all the time when you turn your head away, so realize that. The second point is that we had at one time talked about an underground passageway from under the Diridon station over to the BART station, and then lining that with retail opportunities. What you have blocks that. It seems. At least I could not figure out how you were going to do it. In fact, this is all pretty opaque for people who are not there and able to understand what's going on.
So I will respond to the connection to the future intermodal station. We do have that in this presentation a little bit later. We'll get into that. That's the next topic. So we will present that. I will say that we do not have that area lined in retail, but we do have that connection option shown.
Seems like you're losing an opportunity there. Do you have to come up out of the station to go across and then go back down to BART?
So there's going to be 3 alternatives, and like I say, we have some very detailed slides that I'll show you after we get past the station. So that we'll do that next.
Thank you.
Is the transit schedule for people running around the place, or is schedule how long it's going to take to construct?
schedule how long it's gonna take to construct.
Oh,
So program schedule,
it's different then.
The delivery of the project.
yeah. Program.
Think of it like from a community's perspective, right? Like, if it's gonna take us longer from a criteria standpoint, is that more important to you, or, you know, because different options may be longer or less. So you have to weigh that against the final experience or the cost. Where does that rank in your mind as a community?
I can't change my ranking.
Okay.
Your schedule, I thought was transit schedule, which is important, so I put that as
Yes.
2. If it's,
Understood. Okay.
it's 4th is appropriate.
Future meetings for the, we'll clarify that. Thank you.
So to be able to weigh the value of the changes you're proposing implementing, you have to have a sense of what the cost is to the construction, so the retail. Yeah, we can value the retail, like there's a million square feet in San Jose that are now wasted retail.
Exactly.
That we're all converting over, so it's, I'm sure you're gonna have like.
Do have that and go into that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, that's a great segue. Thank you for those who provided their input in Mentimeter. We're gonna move along here, but it looks like user experience is the preferred
Great.
evaluation.
And thanks everybody for taking, as Kristen mentioned, keep that app open because we've got 3 or 4 more questions we can use. Or that we can use the app to answer. So we'll go on to the next slides. We do have a lot more detailed discussion on these 3. Again, these are the 3 alternatives we're looking at right now. So let's keep going. The underground option, and this is the cross section we looked at. So the tunnel alignment there in the cross section is the circle, and it's about 70 feet deep. Then we have the primary head house structure, which is a very deep and wide facility. And that has the escalators that take you down to the mezzanine level and then down to the station itself.
Can you show me where on the left that
Yes. So that circle is kind of right in this middle of this. It's in the middle of that kind of teal area. So what we're trying to do with this option is have this infrastructure facilities element below grade through that area there. And then there's also going to be some facilities above grade for approximately 2 levels. So there'll be something at grade and then there'll be some roof structures. So we got to have some HVAC units. We got to have some things up on the roof here that'll be screened back and hidden behind over here. And then this allows for a future TOD zone. So on day 1, this would be flat. We'd have some bicycle parking out here. We'd have a little area where there, you could utilize. And then ultimately this would be built out for quite a large facility. It's about an 80-foot setback for a building that could go up to 200+ feet tall. So the ground floor could be lined with activated space, retail, etc. And then again, we keep our 2 retail spaces at front, Santa Clara adjacent to Cahill and to Montgomery.
And TOD could be residential above the.
Could be residential, mixed use, whatever the developer, envisions and whatever.
Do you know what the acreage footprint of the future TOD zone might be in each?
So it's 80 feet deep by approximately 120 feet wide.
155 by 85 would be sort of the max. And
Yeah, that's
that
the
would be
max.
like sort of all the way to the lot.
And I think that's to the lot line. So once we come back to the lot line, it's like 150 by 80 or so.
Okay.
So that's the underground option. We've got about 45% or so of all those critical infrastructure elements I talked about below grade, and about 50%, 55% above grade. So that kind of cuts it roughly in half. This is the optimum space for us to utilize here. So these are some of the things that those cover. We go to the next one. Again, the next one is essentially an expanded station footprint. So we have a very similar scenario where we've got the future TOD zone. We've got a very large below grade facility, but we actually expand this into Cahill or towards Cahill. We go into Cahill, but we go towards Cahill. So this creates a much wider structure for the station. So that increases the cost of the program. But it does provide additional retail space. And that's one of the things that we heard that was requested was to provide some additional at-grade retail space. And we put one square over here on Cahill. We could potentially put maybe a smaller square on Montgomery. It kind of really depends on how this whole thing space plans out. As commented earlier, there's a lot of open retail space downtown and all over the area that we're having a tough time to build. You know, VTA is not an agency that builds retail, but we understand this is a desire of the community, so that's why we're putting this in here for your review.
And the TOD, Greg, gets bigger here too by about.
The TOD would jump up to the 180 feet. So the original was like 150, and then now we go to the 180 or so.
Neither of the options remove the functionality of Montgomery returning to a southbound at the end of terminus of the project.
That's correct. Right. So we're only talking about the station kind of footprint.
And Cahill plus, yeah.
Right now. So that's the other option. And we'll go into some benefits and costs for all three. And then the last option was the one that we originally had, which is our baseline. Again, that brings everything above grade. It's much easier to maintain. It's the least expensive option for the program. All of these batteries and large equipment pieces are at grade. We're able to drive in and utilize them and get them with a forklift instead of a crane, and things like that. So operations and wise, BART does like this option the best because everything is at grade, is easily accessible instead of having things like elevators that need to take it down to the second. We do try to optimize as much as we could in terms of retail space. Again, we do have the ground floor activation along Santa Clara as well as a small area over here. Then there's also some bike parking in this area here as well. So those are the three options we currently have. We go to the next slide. Those are the three options we talked about. We go to the next slide, which talks a lot of information here. The underground scenario in terms of cost does cost quite a bit more than that above grade. We're looking at approximately a $30 million increase by having this basement level. If we go with the widened footprint, then we're at about $5 signs, which is about $50 million or so. So these are kind of significant impacts to the program. We've got a slight schedule increase in terms of just implementing this design configuration, but it would not delay the start of the job. We think there's enough float in the station construction itself that it wouldn't actually delay the opening day. We would just eat that schedule through the other activities that are happening. We know that you guys reported back that the user experience is one of the primary drivers of this. So we've got a lot of user experience here that we talked about. The underground option does provide, you know, with a lot less of this infrastructure at grade, you know, that you have a little bit more TOD, you have a little bit more community activity happening at grade. So that definitely is a positive. And so you also allow for more of that TOD opportunity. So those are the things that we've been weighing.
After the difference in Cahill as a user experience option, right?
Yeah, so one thing that we do think that the underground scenario provides that the underground with the expansion footprint does not is a wider pavilion, a wider plaza on Cahill, which allows for more queuing and lines for people entering the system after events. Right, so when you have that wider paseo, we're able to have people entering those fare gates and some queues and lines. That'll be a lot more user friendly. Once we heat that space up with this TOD, then you have a lot more congestion happening. So at least for day one alternative, it's definitely a lot easier to have that kind of open space or public space between the station and the actual sidewalk. It'll be a little bit about 25 feet.
Greg, do the added costs for these other two undergrounds change the overall 12.7, or do you have like a design contingency that it feeds out of?
I mean, it does affect the overall program budget. Yeah, so when we do things like this, then other things might suffer. Like, you know, architectural finishes, you know, things that we would need to offset in order to accommodate this $30 or $50 million increase.
Is there a design contingency right now in 12.7?
There's contingencies, yes. So there's definitely contingencies, but right now the trade, you know, the industry is very aggressive in terms of construction costs. So those contingencies, when we have them, we need to protect them as much as possible. So we will have to make some adjustments, to make sure that we maintain that full flexibility.
It's really hard to weigh it if you don't know what the balance is. What am I giving up? Because obviously I want one of the underground space.
Yeah.
What am I giving up?
And again, we don't know yet. We will need to evaluate all those things, and that's part of our assessments with you. That's part of understanding. The user experience is number one, according to our poll today. Okay, how do we can make that our priority if we do have this funding shortfall? And do go with the underground scenario. What are the things that we need to make sure that we accommodate?
We do have that question in the chat as well.
Sure.
I think I'm wondering, would the TOD offset cost?
What's that?
For the TOD offset cost?
The TOD ultimately would offset some, but again, that's future dollars. That's much later in the game. It's not part of the program. We can't use that as part of our funding mechanism. We actually have to build our program first. And so, yes, there would be some costs there, but it's an unknown. And as we all know, there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of empty square foot buildings that are not providing any income to the owners at this point in time. Today, in 20 years, who knows, right?
This is a major intermodal transit.
Yeah.
It's not just a way station. People, when you're going to the Sharks thing, it'd be great to have dinner there. So the people parking miles away.
And so that's a very valid concern. And so we're hearing that, and that's why we want to give us these options. And we know, these are, in order to give you the underground option and give everybody a chance to weigh in, there is some cost issue.
Might be a minority voice, and that's fine. But BART and VTA are responsible for moving people, and where we can, adding accoutrements to the thing. The downtown west and the rest of the development should be adding the entirety of that space. Ask VTA to take on additional risk when your budgets are imperiled. I would significantly warn us that we should be protecting what we have, not adding additional things. This is one of those committee decisions that ends up with the Pentagon adding, a bottle openers on machine guns kind of thing. So I would very much encourage you guys to stay focused on your core business and give us retail where you can, and move as many fans and people down there as you can.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're building a station, right? And that's what we need to remember. So thank you for that comment, and that's something that we value for sure.
Yeah, but I also don't want to see wasted space.
Yeah.
Right. This is a core part. This is hopefully a vibrant downtown area. Right. And I don't want to just see a barren area like I see some of the other stations. There's nothing there. No one wants to build anything there. No one stays there. There's no activity there. There's lots of potential. And so I think especially with this one in the downtown, you have to really maximize, be more efficient with the space.
I would it's also important to recognize that there is a lot of planned development in this area outside of this specific site. So we're not showing that in our aerials here, but it is something to also just keep in mind. I agree, no one wants to see, barren land. But Caltrain's got development plans on the Blockville South, we've got Below around, so there's going to certainly be development around the station.
If you want to jump in here, we do want to keep moving because at the time, but we do have a question online. It looks like, would PIFIA be a potential funding source to be paid back by those future dollars?
I think we can look into the funding sources. Right now, their VTA's got a wide net on a lot of the grants and funding sources out there, but if there's a specific one, we can get back to. Who's that from? Sorry.
Is there an opportunity to speak sometime?
Yes, Rod.
May I take just a minute to readjust your perspective? I want to relate myself to the gentleman who spoke just before me, that the downtown area is depressed now, but you're building a system here for the next 100 years. You're not building it for right now. You're building it to be used as Silicon Valley becomes the focal point, like a New York or a Chicago. Realize that when high-speed rail goes in, and it's going in, you don't ever doubt that. Just a matter of time. When it goes in, you're going to have 200,000+ trips a day that are currently on roads taking 2.5, 3.5 hours a day, coming into the valley on high-speed rail in 55 minutes. And with our industry supporting those trips with money to the people who use them. And that's going to convert a whole lot of ridership into the Diridon station that don't have a place to go. They've got to get to their jobs in Silicon Valley, not in San Francisco. A few will, but the majority are going to go to jobs in Silicon Valley, and they're going to need to transfer to Caltrain, the Altamont Express going the other direction, and so on, and light rail particularly, taking them to local jobs and buses. And what you've shown here makes it very difficult for that transfer to occur. You've got a blockage in the opportunity to have people come across that area in a tunnel, so there'd be directly access from light rail, which will be the heaviest used transportation mode in the future, to the BART system. Instead, you have to come up out of the ground, walk over, and then go back down into the ground. That's going to just frustrate riders, which we've all indicated is the optimum objective. And when you talk about saving a few bucks, $50 million is chicken feed compared to what you're going to have to invest in the future to make this area reach its potential. You need to be designing for the long-term future, not for a budget constraint that's tomorrow. And you got to fight through then and get your politicians out there to find the money, run the campaigns and find the money, but build to the optimum. This is discouraging to look at.
Well, Rob, I think you're gonna like what we show you in a few minutes, which actually has a direct tunnel connection. So we're gonna get to that in a minute.
Don't restrict your vision to a budget constraint. Build what you think is going to be optimum, and then let's go find the money.
Right.
That's what we've always done. And we haven't found it as quickly as we needed.
Thank you, Rob.
Great points, and build for the future is what we're hearing, and I agree that we will take that consideration. We do have to move on because I do have more to cover.
Yes, and I do want to chime in here.
Sure.
We do need to keep it moving, so if you could hold any questions and comments towards the end, since Greg has a lot of content to go through, so appreciate it.
Again, I've already covered most of this. Let's go to the next slide. So, in these three options, can you tell us what are the specific elements that you like between the three? Again, the underground does provide for the future TOD. The above ground does not. And then the underground, the last one is the expanded station footprint. And if you guys can just focus on the station itself, Rod, we'll talk about the connection to the future Diridon station, or to the station expansion next. But this is really related to the station footprint itself, just within the footprint.
This is meant to be a little bit more open-ended, so like retail or,
Open space.
open space. You could use one of the optional words if you want to describe the options, those features that Greg talked you through.
And we'll let you guys kind of dwell on that and add things as we go, because I think we're going to keep going. We'll keep the poll open. Oh, there is a QR code there.
Okay, so we're seeing residential TOD, so those are drivers. Above ground, stay focused. Okay. These are words that we want to take as feedback to help the designers incorporate into the next iteration of what the station will be. We give it one more moment here. Maintain current footprints, underground is highlighted and larger. That's getting a little bit more weight. Connectivity, like global trains. This is good.
Awesome. I think we're going to have to go we can move on, but thank you for that feedback.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so, based on that, I guess this allows you to select which of these provide the best community-based solution. So if you would like to pick one over the other, you can select one, or you can select two, or you can select all three.
Select more than one?
Yes, you can select all that apply.
So we can figure out how to do that.
Or you can narrow your focus if you really feel strong, right? So it tells us all will meet the needs, or no, we think you should focus maybe on one or the other. Help us narrow it. But
I was gonna pick both underground and underground expanded, but I couldn't do both, so.
it wouldn't let you multi-select.
Oh, you just select one.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Was anyone else able to multi-select? No.
Right, looks like it's leveled out. Thank you for that input there. And our last poll question here for this section. We'd like you to rank all of these 7 options here according to what you consider most important to you.
We have minimized infrastructure facilities, built-in commercial retail, open space in Cahill, queuing, construction impacts for excavation, or off-hauling. I mean, if you choose that, you're concerned about that. So mixed-use development opportunities, that would be our TOD, which would be integrated with likely residential, retail, or expanded retail station footprint within the station. That TOD looks like it's pretty important for folks who are voting. Oh, dropping down there. Minimizing facilities at ground level is now the top go-getter. Retail, okay, interesting. Okay.
So about 1 more minute.
Any idea how many people are voting?
Yes.
About
7 right now.
No.
I don't know.
still,
I'd vote, but I don't know how.
did you want to provide a verbal? 2 or
Yeah.
3 things?
The little tiny numbers at the bottom that I can't read.
Rod, did you want to provide a verbal 2 or 3 things?
I'd add myself to the top line.
Top line.
Okay, thank you. We'll note that.
Thank you, Rod. All right, looks like it's settled out. Thank you for that feedback. Be sure to capture it. And back to you, Greg.
Okay, so again, that's the overall area. Now I'd like to switch to the discussion of the connection to the future station. Okay, so As Rod mentioned, this next part of the conversation is gonna be talking about the ways that our station that we're building will connect into the future Diridon intermodal station. Okay, so that's what these next 3 slides will be on, these next 3 options. So the first option that we've got to consider is, so anyway, this is the design of that future station. It's a very large facility. It does widen out from where it's at. The existing historic building remains there, but it's a much longer platform area. And this does create a plaza in the at-grade scenario in yellow, or in light yellow there. And then you can see our design for our structure is right there in orange. So what this does is provides kind of an open space between that future high-speed rail terminus and that allows for a connection that way. Now, as Rod mentioned, right now, a way to get from one station to the other would be to walk across that plaza. So that's the current one particular option, would be to do that. You exit out of the high-speed rail trains or any of the other Caltrains or other intermodal facilities, you walk across and then go back down into the tunnel.
Just to clarify, is this the railroad lines are running the 2nd floor?
Yeah, so we have some cross sections. There actually are 2 different options that the intermodal facility is working on right now. They've got a stacked option and then kind of a lowered option, and I've got them shown here. So we can go to the next slide. So these are the 3 options. They've got kind of a stacked scenario where the platforms are all above here. And then again, you have a connection where you walk out, you walk across the pavilion, the plaza area, then you go down the escalators and get on the BART. So that would be one alternative. That's the above ground alternative. The second option will be the below ground alternative. And so that's when the intermodal station's a little bit lower, and they would provide a underground passageway that would lead into like the basement level, the first level basement of the Diridon, of the BSV station. So that's option 2. So the first option is at grade. The second option is they come in and tie into our head house. The third option would be for us to build our station platform in the tunnel a little bit longer and put a future connection point into that tunnel and allow for a direct connection into the Diridon intermodal facility.
Using and have a gate.
And there would be a new station entrance area up there, and that would be installed as part of the future work.
And that will be from above grade?
That's from above grade, right? So we've got a cross section for that, I think, as well, which kind of shows that this is going to be a fairly deep connection. Then there'd be staircases and an elevator that come up and escalators that come up to the intermodal station over here. So those are the 3 options. I know which way I think some of us want to pick, which is fine. There are cost implications for this one, the third alternative. We would need to plan for the station to be a little bit longer. We would need to put some steel rings into our tunnel to allow for this future connection. We need to have some infrastructure in place to allow the systems and then the various elements of work to tie in, but that could be done as part of it.
For the below ground option on the bottom left, where would the fare gates for that be located?
Fare gates will likely be here in the gray area right in front of the station, and that will be done in the future.
So much of that connection would be uncontrolled in that sense. It would be open to the public up until that.
I don't know. That's not designed. So
for consideration, I think.
I don't think, we're not considering where those would be. They would be outside of the area over here. So again, we've got an at-grade facility where you walk directly into our station. You've got an underground passageway, and then you have the third option, which would be a direct tunnel connection.
Brings the above ground similar to the Milpitas station, where you have VTAs elevated and then you walk in.
Yeah, kind of like that. Similar to that.
Okay.
I've always been a big fan of the underground, but problem, I guess I need to see a different vision of it.
Okay.
Because, you know, especially pre-pandemic, the Caltrain tunnels were just horrible. You know, you had a train coming out, no one could go the other way. I'm assuming that these will be much wider and better, but I just don't have the vision of what it would look like. Plus, if it really is going with the second floor, trains,
Here.
I don't see much benefit of undergrounding of using the tunnels. I mean, I gotta get up and up anyway.
Right.
Or down and down. And the third option, it seems like a longer option from the middle of the train to the middle of BART.
This business team settle on their two options here in August, right? These are the two.
These are the two
These are
options
the
that
two
they
they're
are
settling.
carrying forward.
You've already
Well,
limited
that's
the
a
third.
great option and stack and what are they called?
I mean, they had, well, right down, they had the three, they had the elevated, the at grade, and then the stacked.
Yeah, elevated.
And, the August meeting, I believe, is where they'll be looking to identify which ones they'll carry forward. Right now, working with the Diridon team for the intermodal, any one of these connections would work with any one of their options.
Right. What's the difference between elevated and stacked?
The elevated has all the heavy rail above ground, so the grade is higher, so it's all on the same level, whereas the stack puts high-speed rail high and keeps the freight and the Caltrain at approximately the same level where the tracks are.
Oh, okay, so you don't get
That's shown the stacked.
It's sort of a bit mirrored like that, but it reduces the width of the overhead station.
So if you have stacked, you have to, are people gonna go above and down, or are they gonna go through underground to get out of Caltrain?
So if the stack configuration occurs in the intermodal station, they would come down to essentially the lower level. And then they could either come through this underground passageway and tie in, or they could just go directly down right there and tie into our tunnel. So that's essentially where you either come, you know, directly underneath those tracks, the high-speed rail tracks, and then walk towards the tunnel, or you gotta go to the right, go down and into the tunnel,
I think it depends on whatever the station's gonna be. If it's gonna be elevated, I think going above ground's fine. If it's gonna be stacked or at grade.
The problem that we have is we've got a contractor that wants to go build this, and the Diridon and the modal folks aren't ready to make a decision yet. So if we want to provide for this third alternative here, that's also got some cost implications to the program.
And figure out how long it's gonna take to walk.
Yes, we did. So
is that faster or slow?
You go to the next slides, we can talk a little bit about them in detail. Again, this is a blow up of that area. Keep going. Let's go to the slide with all the alternatives on it. Go back one. No, go forward, table. Thank you. So the below ground BART tunnel alternative has the shortest travel time. If you have the above grade scenario, I think it's about a minute longer.
A minute 20, I believe it. The Diridon intermodal doing the modeling, and for the direct tunnel connection, since you're connecting to that extended platform, that's the most direct connection.
Oh, so that's the one that looks like it's.
It looks like long, but with the, it's good described, we have that extended platform, and so they're connecting directly into that. So based on that, the direct connection, it saves about, and they've modeled the entire station, but on average, it saves about a minute 30, over the other options.
Right.
The low grade primary and the above ground are quite similar. Because it's really, you're walking from the intermodal over to the BART station, either at grade or below grade, but a similar travel distance, slightly quicker below grade, you save a bit of vertical, but then you're coming into the main BART platform rather than an extended platform, which is closer to the intermodal station.
So any other specific questions on these, or we're gonna go through the voting scenario?
I have a comment.
Sure.
And I'd like to follow up on something Ron said. In relation to the at grade option, to me, that seems to be the most appealing because we're talking about a city that has outstanding weather. And if people were to leave the station and come out and see they had retail available, some place to eat, the arena's across the street, there's a plaza. I mean, there's a welcoming, there'll be so many welcoming elements at grade. It may be worth considering a little more seriously, just for the experience itself, instead of just being in a tunnel the whole time, getting off a train and getting onto another train. Some people may have an hour before they have to catch a train. And I would say being above grade would allow them to experience a bit of San Jose.
Are they mutually exclusive? Like, can you walk above grade if there's a tunnel?
Yes, absolutely. So you can leave the Caltrain track, go out to the tunnel, the plaza area, and then go back and go back in and take this entranceway if you wanted to. So they are not mutually exclusive. You are not locked into one certain area. Once you get into a BART fare gate zone though, then it costs you money to get in. So yeah, if we did provide for the below grade scenario, as the gentleman on the call just mentioned, you could do the above grade. Sure, you could absolutely do that. But I will say, if we don't make a decision to provide this direct tunnel connection now, we will not be able to do it in the future without a significant impact to the railroad's ability to operate. So that's one of the decisions we need to make fairly quickly, is if we're going to spend the money on this, because if we don't put these steel liners in, if we don't extend the mezzanine, if we don't build out that interior elements, then we won't be able to do it without shutting down the BART system 20 years from now, which might take, a year or two of operation, which we definitely do not want to do.
All right, can I ask one more question, since I do have a question about the tunnels. Are there models on a global scale that have features regarding transit tunnels that can provide a welcoming environment? I'm sure there's some out there, but I'm wondering if we could see some examples of that.
Examples of what? Sorry, Chris?
I'm sorry. So if we decide to do a tunnel, are there models nationally or internationally that feature connecting tunnels, knowing you're underground, that are pleasant to the eye? That people feel like this is the place they want to be and they would spend time here.
Sure.
I'm getting at customer experience kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the connections that have just opened in San Francisco are a little bit similar to that. There's some things at various airports where you've got airport people movers, where they've got kind of tunnel connections, underground areas, and so yeah, we can get you some things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's. Okay, we got one more.
Doesn't the transfer depend on some decisions about Caltrain and high-speed rail that have not?
Here you have.
Yeah, you need to speak up.
I'm just reading the online chat question. Doesn't the transfer depend on some decisions about Caltrain HSR that have not been made yet?
I would just say, I mean, those decisions have not been made, but these connections, working with the Diridon team, they would work with any of the options that they may select.
The benefit that they provide depends on what the ultimate configuration of the Diridon station is, though, in terms of.
I would say not really, because the big benefit they see is sort of the reduced travel time and the more intuitive connection. And I would agree, depending on whether they go with at grade or an elevated, there are some differences, but it still provides the shorter travel time. And at least from the intermodal, if you're in that station, they can sort of book for the fixed sign up to a second BART this way. To provide that more intuitive sort of, I go straight to BART as opposed to going out sideways. If I've got time, I can go to the restaurant, but if I'm rushing to catch my BART train, the idea is you sort of have that direct connection. So It's not exactly the same, I would say, for each of the intermodal choices, but similar relative to the options.
Okay, we do have some feedbacks that we can give here. So which of these options provides the most community-based solution? And it looks like you can only pick one. So choose your decision wisely. And if we want to open this up for, you know, additional feedback, maybe we can do that after the poll. Because we did intend for you guys to be able to pick multiple solutions if you did want to do that.
Can you give us the code one more time? I jumped out.
Yes.
Thank you.
The common facts and the Day Street Tunnel in New York City for comparable underground. Oh, there's a comment in the chat when you say that, look at Day Street Tunnel in New York City for comparable of an underground tunnel connecting to two transit hubs. Right, looks like we're settling out here. Thank you for the. And our next question here, what specific elements of the options do you like? So this is also that same word cloud format. If you like the plaza, if you like the tunnel. Anyone.
Experience, the travel time of the user. Is it the welcoming San Jose environment? Of what a plaza offers.
Speed of transfer, direct connections, outdoor experience.
Weather protection, tunnel, travel time. Cost control, and I assume that relates to the cheaper options. Ease of access. Outdoor plaza. Open space. Idea of activating retail. Or commercial space that can be leased.
One more minute.
While people are filling this out, we talked about capital costs, but there's also an operating cost element for any underground connection, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So there's definitely a capital cost and an operating cost to have the tunnel. And there's future costs, right?
Maintenance.
There's gonna be a lot of future costs for those underground connections that we wouldn't have, if we just have the ag rate scenario.
Makes us be back.
Yes.
Can any of you hear them?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Nobody can hear you talking when you talk quietly and you don't talk into the microphone.
Is that for me or is that for Kristen?
You can hear you. You're pretty loud. But
Okay.
Christine, I can't hear her at all.
Yeah, I keep giving her the ear, like I can't hear you across the room, so you have to speak up, Kristen.
Yes, I will yell, my term of yelling. Thank you, Rob.
That's coming through now.
Awesome. Okay, I know we have 2 minutes here and apologies if anyone has to hop off. We do have 2 more brief sections here. Adriana is going to present an update on our downtown station specifically. So appreciate all your feedbacks for the Diridon station. I know that was a lot of options and information to intake. So Adriana, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. So I wanted to provide a brief update on our current status for the downtown station. There are 2 key elements that came out of the VTA Board of Directors referral. The first one is ensuring that the head house or the station entrance building strives for the highest level of iconic context sensitive design including art and design cues from the surrounding downtown communities. So we are addressing that request for the current station entrance building that is located between Market and First Street through our established design review committee process. We anticipate that any future station entrance for the downtown station would also go through a similar type of process. So right now, we're really focusing on that station entrance building. So we've got on the next slide, we've initiated that effort. So for those not familiar, the design review committee is a group that meets to provide input on various station design elements, including aesthetic treatments, material finishes, landscaping, lighting, and potential location and integration of art. The actual installment of art is separate from what the FTA program can and will pay for. We went through a similar process back in 2021, which is where a lot of the renderings that you would have seen over the past years came from. And so we've made some updates to our station designs, and so have reinitiated this effort. For the downtown San Jose station specifically, the DRC, the design review committee members include representatives from the San Jose State University, the SJDA, the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Residents Association, and 3 San Jose staff members. So we held a first meeting last June, and we really wanted to have an initial meeting to gather input and feedback and some direction from our DRC members. And I know we had Tony was one of the members that participated on that call. Tony wanted to give you a few minutes to just share your thoughts or feedback from that initial meeting.
Sure, thanks, Adriano. This is really an impactful station for us, the chamber, because it's across the street and it is in the center of the downtown area. So we looked at some options and really liked an option that popped up. You see a section up there with the barrel vault. It emulates a lot of things around town. We had domes at the cathedral. That's a project of mine, so I'm very passionate about it. The old courthouse used to have domes. So we have history around domes in San Jose, and having that curved ceiling or roof structure helps with drainage. It could be, we talked about metal panels and things that are durable, that can last a long time, 50 years, maintenance free relatively. We talked about art and culture in San Jose. We have probably over, I think it's over 25 murals around the downtown area that Jenica knows because she counted them one day. We're actually contemplating doing some on this building on the outside. So that ability to bring natural art into the building, I think, or the exterior or both could be a really interesting option to do. And then we talked about light, and light is another form of art that we're going to see more and more of in San Jose. It also livens up the space. I mean, I live in the East Bay actually and go through the dark BART tunnels all the time and the BART stations, and it's depressing. So having something lively with natural light during the day, some skylights, art glass, things like that would be great. And we talked about durable surfaces too, like the floor. The floor can be an interesting area for art. You've seen some of these colored concrete sections and systems that are pretty much stain free, fairly maintenance free, and they're pretty cost effective when you look at the overall installation side. So lots of that discussion went on to keep the San Jose culture and the idea of technology with lights, along with kind of traditional art and even some historic pieces with the shapes. That was kind of.
Thank you, Tony. And we had a lot of great input that we are working to incorporate and explore in our designs. And so we have a second design review committee meeting that we are targeting later next month. And we'll make sure to come back to this group and continue to provide updates as that process advances. As Tony mentioned, some of the key themes and feedback that we received are, you know, what makes San Jose Station unique. This is going to be a gateway to San Jose Station for many. How can this be celebrated in the station design? Past feedback that was provided was celebrating the actual structure of the station. So our station, very similar design to the Diridon in that it's got a large circular drum. You'll have 2 escalators to get down to the lower point. As Tony again mentioned, there was a lot of discussion about how we use light at the station, both natural light, making sure that it's being used as, to provide an environment that is enjoyable for passengers. Also as part of wayfinding, to let people know when they get out of the train and out of the tunnel, they'll see natural light and kind of help them get back up to the surface. We also talked about artificial light, and one of the things in particular that was mentioned is, San Jose's illuminating downtown effort. And so wanting to make sure that this station contributes and participates in that effort. So making sure we're looking at this, not just from the daylight standpoint, but what opportunities there might be to really activate the station in those darker hours. And then we talked about some of these grand gestures and making the station iconic and timeless. Tony, as you mentioned, some of these arches and domes are something that we have seen in San Jose, as well as some of the other stations around the world that have stood out and really stand the test of time. So that is some of the feedback that we are working to incorporate. We're doing the best we can to look at what options can be included within the budget constraints that we have on this project. As Greg mentioned, we spend more money on one thing, we're gonna have to figure out where we're gonna take it from on the other end. But we'll continue going through this process, and as we did with our 2021 effort, we'll work with the design review committees to identify a few key concepts that we then want to bring to the larger community, and we're anticipating that will happen later this year. The next part of the VTA Board of Directors referral was to really look at opportunities for a south station entrance. So that would be an entrance on the south side of Santa Clara Street. We recognize there are a lot of activities and attractions on the south side, including SJSU, including the light rail, and of course, City Hall. And so the very first ask was to establish a timeline and a process for how we could deliver a south entrance separate from our BART Phase 2 program. Again, this is a south entrance is not cleared as part of our program. We definitely don't want to derail or jeopardize our process for getting full funding grant agreement from the FTA, but we are looking at opportunities to advance this separately, but in such a way that it could be built and open at the same time as the other stations. So it's more of a, on our end, we know it's going to need to be a separate project. In terms of what the public will see is this will be just part of the station when it opens. And so we've taken an initial stab at that. I'll flash that up. We'll flash that up on the next slide. And so as you can see here, we identify that there's some planning and funding strategy. We'll need to identify how we're going to pay for not just the capital cost of construction, but also the planning and the clearance and the engineering that all needs to go into it. But we anticipate that we could start environmental clearance as early as sometime next year. And that would be a multi-year effort. That's, you may know, the south side of Santa Clara Street is a historic district, and so that certainly poses some additional challenges from an environmental clearance. This project will need to go through federal environmental clearance, regardless of whether federal funds are used or not, because it connects to a federal project. But overall, we feel confident that this is something that could be delivered in time for opening revenue service in 2037. The next part of the ask was to develop an approach and a work plan for things that we can start working on immediately. So again, what we are doing is we're working to establish a task force, primarily with City of San Jose directors from various departments, as well as some key stakeholders in the downtown San Jose station area. And that task force will meet several times over the next 5 or so months. The very first task would be to identify and screen some potentially feasible alternatives. Identify a couple concepts that VTA can then advance and tease out a little bit more. And then I ultimately select a preferred option for advancing and bring that to the City of San Jose City Council, as well as VTA Board of Directors for concurrence. While we're working on that, we, as I mentioned earlier, still need to identify funding opportunities and establish a funding strategy for this project that is separate from our BART Phase 2 federal program. And then we'll initiate the environmental review process. We are intending for that to kick off after we've received the full funding grant agreement from FTA, so as not to really throw a wrench in the process and delay any potential funding agreement from the FTA. And then ultimately VTA and the city of San Jose will enter into some sort of partnership on how that project will be delivered. So just at a high level, we've through previous efforts have identified that the location for a south entrance that is preferable would be on the southwest corner of Santa Clara Street and 2nd Street. So that is shown where the letters A and B are. The city of San Jose has identified the historic Western Dental Building as their preferred option. Again, that is something that we need to dive into a little bit more from a feasibility standpoint. As I mentioned, the south side of Santa Clara Street is a historic district. And so a lot of those properties are federally protected, and there are some limitations to what can and cannot be done with those. So we'll certainly look at that and how feasible an entrance there might be, but we're also looking at other opportunities for a station entrance that could be located adjacent to 2nd Street or Fountain Alley. We also know that there's an adjacent developer that's planning something there. So really trying to see what are the potential feasible options.
Sequin root canals, maybe a bit more iconic duo. That's awesome. You guys have a great sense of humor.
Yes. I think that's really what I have to bring to you guys today. We'll be reporting out as that task force really kicks off, and we'll make sure that this process is transparent and that, you know, we give you all an opportunity for input and feedback. But happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Adriana.
Thank you.
And really quickly here, I know we're over time here, but just want to close out with our CWG member report out. So if any folks in the room or online have anything to share about how you've been sharing any of the VSV project updates with your communities, or if there's anything that you would like to flag to us as a project team, things that you've been hearing in your community, things of concern, we'd love to hear. Start with online. I see Bert, you have your hand raised.
Just quickly want to say that Brent talked about the Diridon press conference a few weeks ago. I and several of my community members were at that press conference, and just showing how the community is really supporting this BART project, BART extension project.
Alan?
So I checked my neighborhood. I just want to confirm, we're not doing any kind of egress or ventilation shack on 13th Street.
Correct.
Does VTA BART own any property there still?
Yes. Yes.
What are the plans for that?
So in the coming months, we're going to be giving that parcel to our contractor. It's actually within their control now. So they're going to be securing the site. Eventually they may use it to stage some materials or park equipment there.
So they may use it for construction station for the downtown.
But the vent shaft at 13th Street is moved to the project program.
So then after they use it for staging.
Long-term, 15 years out after the contractor is done, that would be a potential joint development site or something like that. It would be owned by VTA to be determined.
Okay, and since that will be used for construction staging, it'll be covered by the CTMP. Okay.
Yes.
And that's not the one coming out in August.
I believe that's something we're looking at, and we'll confirm that, but if it's going to be relating to the downtown station, we want to make sure that we're accounting for any potential truck or equipment traffic in that area.
Note that or bring that up in the CTMP downtown process. Sure.
Bringing that up, yeah, so making sure that
we're
not forgetting about that.
Okay.
Any other questions, Alan? We'll pass it to Chris. Okay.
All right, just
Very much appreciate Tom McGuire at the board meeting acknowledging the North Star of trying to keep 4 lanes in front of the SAP Center. We also acknowledge the fact that we appreciate everybody's attempt to be able to make sure that the SAP Center can connect to 280 for the duration. All things aside, we're very much excited about the world we're trying to create in 2037 through 2035. We just want to make sure the SAP Center is there and alive when we get to the promised land. So that North Star is super important to us. So thank you guys and thank Tom for stating that.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
I want to comment, just kind of report out, we were involved in the Millbrae BART station development that Republic Urban did. And super successful project, 400 units of housing, about 100 affordable, including veteran preferred, and there was retail and commercial office. I talked to the developer the other day, they're 85% leased at market rate right now in this market. And they're getting like $6,500 for a 3-bedroom, for instance. So, you know, the kind of TOD that exists around these high transportation places should be largely residential in a dense fashion. But you can do things like retail on the ground floor or a great restaurant on the top floor across from the SAP. There's a lot of interesting things that can happen to Rod's point. So I think it's important to look at those TOD opportunities and potentially work partnerships out with the developers in order to get any necessary funding to make that thing happen if you're looking for additional funds. But you can see that it does exist and it works well even in down economy. So it's pretty interesting to watch it around these transportation hubs.
any comments online? All right, thank you for that. I will keep us moving here and we're almost just about wrapped. Did want to remind you, as Brent mentioned earlier, that we do have a meeting in August. We're mainly going to be focusing on our referral updates, the options presented today, and we do also have some general construction updates anticipated and community engagement as well. We'll address this next month, which is just around the corner. I did also want to share that we have posted this construction activity notice on our website. Some of you may have gotten it in your emails as well, but there will be some work starting that has already started, sorry, on July 12th through August 12th in the between Cahill and Montgomery area. So if you want more information, you can find that on our website. And then lastly, I did want to close and promote our upcoming 28th Street Little Portugal community meeting. And this is going to obviously be focused on our 28th Street Little Portugal area, but we are hosting this in person at our Roosevelt Community Center, and it will be on August 7th. So for more information, you can scan that QR code right there. And I did send out an email to all 3 CWG groups. So you can check that email and reach out if you have any questions there. But appreciate your time and apologies for going over. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me. But appreciate your participation tonight, both in person and virtual. And have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, everybody.
And we will be improving this hybrid experience.
Yes.
So we recognize those online. We're gonna have some more microphones.
Yes,
available
spot
in the
mics.
next round.
Yeah.
Thank
Great
you all.
content, great content.
Good night all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.